Okay. Can you guys online hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll go over what we did again. I called the meeting to order at 6:41 PM and I'm taking the roll now. So I'll start all over this for the record. Vice Chair Sanchez.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Mr. James.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Bryant. Mrs. Springs.
Present virtually.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Coleman.
Present.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Jones.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Melton.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Mr. O'Neill.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Maxwell.
Present.
Thank you, ma'am. And Mrs. Ridley. All right, thank you. And then is Attorney Camp, is she on virtually by chance?
Here virtually, Mr.
Thank you so much, ma'am. All right. No one, review and approval of the minutes from May 14th and May 28th. Does anyone need additional time reviewing either of those minutes? If
I
not,
make a motion for the minutes from May 14th. Second.
thank you, sir. Motion made to approve the minutes from May 14th, 2025, made by Mr. Melton and seconded by Mr. Jones. All in favor to approve the minutes from May 14th, 2025, say aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? Any abstain?
Same.
Right, one abstain, no, be Dr. Coleman. Minutes are approved. Next, May 28th, 2025 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 10th.
May 28th,
Oh, sorry, May 28th.
yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Can I ask, do we have those minutes? Oh, no, okay, gotcha.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, motion made to approve the minutes from May 28th, 2025, made by Mr. Melton and seconded by Mrs. Maxwell. All in favor to approve the minutes from May 28th, 2025, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Dr. Coleman will be abstaining. Minutes are approved. The 8th. 15th. Next up. Reports and update from the subcommittees. We can start on the left, we'll start on the right. Anybody ready to go?
I can go short, sweet. We don't have a report for this meeting. We meet on Monday, the 16th. So we'll have a report at the next.
Short and sweet. Okay, great, thank you. Anyone else?
Was community outreach.
Yes, sir.
We was unfortunate, we didn't reach the census, we didn't have a meet day, but, Ms. Bryant sent some points in. We should mention this. She said a community event with Prince George's Chief Association to have those leaders attend, as well as invite communities for a round table. And to hear the concern of police and citizens share their concerns with the legislation as we head into the legislature in November. Present, for, police accountability for slideshow, select municipalities on meetings. Establish a calendar on with coffee clubs to speak at their monthly meeting. And I think we had talked about this, and I think hold a session with the Maryland this would be RACO, statewide PABs, and coordinate with other counties. That's long range. And then she added, the fifth one is create a calendar of events. Members can be assigned to attend when other community organizations host events, we have NAACP, the top ladies, county council. But I wanted to mention too, what Bristol not here today. And I'll urge everybody to do this. I basically should, for the survey, I'm talking about the survey. I basically based, surveys. Maybe, and send it to like 100 people on my email list. Because I think, maybe you can correct me, it was like 40 or below that responded before. So it's up to like 100, I don't know the exact number, you might know. So if we do that, what that gives us, once we get the survey numbers in, I mean, the sheets in, gives a better view if the community knows that we even exist and their concerns, just along with going to community meetings also. So I just urge everybody, do that. You ain't gotta do as bad as me, 50. If they're your friends, they'll send it in, they'll do it, and they'll Prince George County. Just a minute.
Okay, great, thank
Well,
you.
I'll give one more thing on there too. I know we got National Night Out, on Tuesday, August 5th. We have 2 locations confirmed at Allen's Pond and at Hillcrest Heights Community Center. So additional details to come. And then we got invited to, Police Coffee Circle meeting. There are some dates we could choose from later this year, but just some events that are coming up for us to be aware of.
Okay.
For the data analytics committee.
Yes, ma'am.
We don't have a sheet. I'm sorry, the print is so small. I can, email it out, but, I talked about identifying all the sort of data points that we have and making some recommendations, to improve the data. So, and I think sort of tagging along with what Mr. O'Neill said, if, we get more surveys and we can start to get more demographic data, from those surveys, which I think will help at least give us an idea of who's filling it out. And so I won't go over all of these, but a lot of the data points, the recommendations is that we are missing quite a bit of demographic data, from people. So that's always, important. So I'll send this around so people will be able to see it. It's pretty, very small, but just wanted to flag it for you. And if you all have any, once you see it, once I email it, if you have any questions or suggestions, just.
Something different from this?
No, it's the same as this. It's just gonna be larger. It's so hard to see printed out.
I can hold it so I can read it.
But yeah, so the major data points were, I looked at, the community awareness survey, which Mr. O'Neill just talked about, the complaint data that is in our annual report, the, complaint officer complaint data. We, identified community outreach, some legislation, some recommendations there. And then just like administrative stuff, how this board operates. So if you have any questions, comments, just let me know. Yes.
For complaint data,
Mhm.
can you just give more insight into unreported gender?
Right, yeah, that's what it was listed there, in our reports, it's unreported agenda, so what I'm assuming is that it's really missing, they don't know, yeah, so.
So what's the recommendation?
The recommendation is to see if we could get those data or either code that differently, because unreported gender is sort of weird coding. So yes, the recommendation would be either to say missing gender or to try to be better about collecting it.
And then I'm unfamiliar with the SOGIE acronym.
I'm sorry, SOGI, the sexual orientation, gender identity and expression. Okay.
And I just did, rank forms, that's what you want.
Yeah, SOGIE, yep, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression.
And you pronounce that so, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Remember that, thank you. Anyone else, any other stuff, anyone from the board?
Yeah, just to confirm for the complaint data committee, we didn't receive any suggestions or recommended changes to the email that would be sent to the ACC. So I only had one little tweak that I wanted to make for syntax than anything. So if the board is ready to vote on that being sent.
Okay. Okay, we'll do that. See him?
Yeah.
Okay. I have questions.
But this, the email is, what is the email for?
Just,
That you're referencing?
just making a couple requests to the ACC, related to their report.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Gotcha.
Just rather than have it now before they start, you know, aggregating data and putting stuff together. It wasn't a lot. And I don't know, Chair, if you could help relay the message that it's not us being critical or critiquing. Or, you know,
I had that conversation.
oh, okay,
Yeah, that
okay, because I kind of got the sense it felt like that. That wasn't our intentions.
No, not at all. So, well, it did come from us. Well, so we understand that we should be working in this, so, absolutely. So if you want to go ahead and make that,
I'll make a motion to approve the email for the ACC to be sent out as is.
okay, motion made to approve and send out the email forwarding it to the ACC as is. It was made by Mr. Melton, is there a second? Second. And it was seconded by Dr. Coleman. All in favor to send the email as is, the administrative charge committee, say aye. Aye. Any opposed to that? None. Any abstaining? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Melton. That it? So, anyone else?
No updates from appointments.
Okay. We have some, okay, thank you, sir. All right, next up is on the old business will be, meeting frequency, and we talked about it earlier this year, we talked about potentially once a month. Meetings, and then we have our subcommittee meetings. I think that it's important that we also recognize our responsibility in trying to stay fiscally responsible. So we are budgeted to have 24 meetings, I think, per year. So if we go down to one in person and then the subcommittees have their meetings, that would still, get us to 24. Although the legislation says quarterly, but we agreed as a group to meet, twice a month. And so, is there anybody that had any other suggestions about that, going to once a month and then the subcommittees
I
meeting?
think we should keep it the same way. Because with the subcommittee, we just started, and as you can see, sometimes subcommittees can't meet on it. We can't get our dates together and stuff. We still have a lot of work to do. I think that's just my opinion. Still should be 2 times.
Okay. Anyone else?
My only concern with going to once a month is like productivity, like I'm all for less meetings if that means it increases your productivity, your time to do work. But if we go down to one meeting and then we're just meeting once a month, then I guess I just want to be sure that we kind of have a plan for making sure that once a month as a whole group is efficient and effective. That's my only concern at this.
So, and I think, okay, thank you for that, but I think that if there's something that's pressing that comes up, if we can also, use that time at other meetings, we can say, well, there's something that needs to be, taken care of a lot sooner. So maybe we can meet, but I think that it's best right now, in my opinion, to go to once a month in the subcommittees. Again, we want to make sure that we're not just being loose with the money, for less of a better term. So I think it's up to us to be responsible as well. And I do agree. I think that we can get a lot of things done. And it seems like with the subcommittees, we are getting more done this year than we've gotten before. So when we come back to report at that meeting, that gives us an opportunity to review things. So that's just my thoughts and my opinion. So I'm definitely, yes, ma'am.
Far as the budget of it. So, per OMB in the budget, the board is budgeted for 24 meetings per year, just like you said. So with the subcommittee, if you're having a subcommittee meeting and then you're still having in person, it exceeds 20.
In other words, they end up going over the budget until we have things. So if you'll have two in person, probably gonna give it to some, the subcommittee meeting outside.
I understand we are at a deficit. I'm sorry, it's not.
No, I was just saying, now that's a good
So,
comment.
let me ask this
We
question.
understand the parameters of the budget, things like something being in terms of how
Yeah,
we,
you still
how
gonna
we
have
view.
two, you just gonna have them.
Right, but it may, for individuals that were just talking about the two in person, if it's taken away from the subcommittee, that won't be helpful either, because I haven't been on long enough, that's why I didn't think. But I know the subcommittees are very effective, at least the ones I'm on.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to get rid of them.
Right, no, right, agreed, for sure.
So, if we talk about budget, because we don't know about the budget in the sense that those 24 meetings, how many hours per meeting is it fund for? I'm saying,
It's 3 hours per meeting.
I mean, in that case, I think there's a difference between then like meetings and like hours long. Like we might have met a certain number of times, but some of our meetings go for an hour. Some go for 2, some go for 2:15, but we've had some quick meetings this year also. My question then would be like, what is the total hours that we have to stay
Billable
around?
hours.
And yeah, we have the, what are our billable hours and how close are we to that?
So how about this, since we're coming up on the end of the fiscal year, how about we ask for that data? And then put it on the agenda to next to look at to discuss. Is that everybody okay with that? To get that information, billable hours, so we can kind of see where we are. Again, we definitely want to be responsible. Like Mrs. Smackill said, we do not want to forego the subcommittees, but we also want to make sure that we're staying within budget or that even under budget. And then, yes,
So you know, you're gonna be, saying,
yes,
that also includes the outreach too, the 24 is just 24 in general.
right.
I believe that community outreach, you should get
So-
paid for it, and I voiced that to, he was saying. And so he said that, yeah, or should get paid for outreach. So anyway, it's still in the budget for FY 26, it's still only 20 feet, so it would be enough, left over, I guess, still for community outreach.
So.
If you're only meeting, if you're not meeting in 3 hours each meeting,
I guess now my question is, what are we budgeted for? So are you saying that, at first I thought that was a meeting allocation alone. And so therefore we were talking about billable hours for meetings. But if you're talking the entire budget, the billable also includes community outreach, and that's a little bit different. So it's one pocket of money,
Right.
and then we have to decide how to allocate it, as opposed to allocations for different activities.
but I also tell OMB that you all have, cases that you have to review. So I put all of that stuff into the budget, so they know everything that you all are supposed to do further.
But we still have to know how to best utilize
Correct.
the allocation.
And that can help us make our decisions. Yes.
question on that also is that, and the budget been passed already? What's the status?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also would just add in this vein, like if, I mean, I'm okay with moving down to once a month. Maybe like if we give, maybe we say we do that in August or something, like I think, yes, get this, but we need to understand this aspect of like our responsibility as well, like for sure. But also if we say subcommittees like have a plan for like how you're gonna be scheduling your meetings moving forward, I think that also gives security on like making sure that those meetings are gonna happen, like at least you have some framework of like subcommittees will meet in the first 2 weeks of the month, right? Or like it's like meetings can have some idea of like planning out some of their meetings so that it's not just, all right, go ahead, because again, some weeks you can't, when you do it on the fly, sometimes you can't. I think
I see what you're saying, I'm scheduled.
if we go to one full meeting a month, then I would think that we would have to schedule more in advance at the subcommittee level as well,
And have that.
before doing that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See, because what we're getting is, my problem is that we don't know about the budget process. Yeah, I'm just saying that you know that when you go for the council, whatever, did we put more money in before this year and got cut back, or we just went in there and just asked for what we had last year? You know what I mean?
No, I completely agree, because, we know the work that we have to do, so we can kind of guess to what that would look like when it comes to saying, these are the amount of meetings that we have. I mean, now that we're looking at the subcommittees, there may be a time, like Mr. Jones was saying, we may need to discuss some other things, and we may have other outreach groups that want to meet and come and talk, so I think that's part of it as well. So let's do this, let's get the solar
Mr.
out.
Chair, I'm sorry, before you conclude, I was trying to raise my hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's okay. Do we have to, so is there a way for us to, in advance, maybe schedule certain meetings, like certain months where we have more than one meeting a month? Maybe, or look at what we have on our calendar and agenda instead of doing a blanket statement of having once a month. Maybe we have, look at the calendar and what we have, or look at the months and say, hey, for these 2 or 3 months, we're only meeting once a month. And then maybe do 2 months later, or look at what we have versus doing a blanket statement of one meeting a month. Cause I think it'll be hard to go with that based on what we have. Like, is there a way to look at what we have scheduled and then maybe do it from there versus just saying we're gonna do one meeting a month? Or have it so that we have it certain months where we do one meeting a month? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, got you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, see, the other thing is that, just like the Chiefs meeting, is that included, because that's a quarterly mandate?
Yeah.
Why would that be included in the 24 meetings? I mean, I'm just
So-
saying.
I think it's not the meetings. It's, we need to understand our budget.
Right.
So that, yeah, and then we'll know how to develop our meetings in terms of based on the billable hours. If we know the whole budget for this, then we can decide how we allocate, how many meetings, how many community events, the quarterly meetings, and
Right.
all of that is under that umbrella. And something I do want to talk to Chair about, because I think that we all here should understand how the budget works.
Yeah.
Like, we start July 1.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is that, okay, we got 24 meetings for the take care of business. And under the law, they say we have to have 4 quarterly meetings with chiefs. So it should be 28 instead of 24, that's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Because that's the law.
That impacts.
So when we take 4 meetings, that leaves us with 20.
Right.
We're supposed to be 28. You know what I mean? That means 20 that we had last week, that shouldn't count towards 24.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's a discussion we have to make.
Yeah, but I'm
And
saying,
back it up. But right now, it looks like in the budget.
Yeah, the budget, it sounds like the budget was
Right.
built already without that consideration.
Correct.
And we weren't, well, I don't want to speak for the board, but I know personally, we didn't have a conversation about what we wanted for our, budgetary committee or whatever to know what our needs were. It looks like they did their own assessment and allocated accordingly. So that could be something of record that somehow gets up and gets considered for the next budget.
I mean, because it was created, so they probably just made some assumption, and now we exist.
Exactly.
And now we can talk about the practicalities.
And what we need, yeah.
Yeah, depending on the needs of the board, it's always gonna fluctuate, so my thing is, maybe we incorporate at some level a quarterly update that says, here's where you are, we can make adjustments accordingly. Cause again, to me, it is also about hours, it's not really about the meeting, the number of meetings, it's about the billable hours. Because we're all doing all kind of different stuff outside of the meeting. So having some controls quarterly will help with that.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Next year, I think that's what we gotta do, because say, let's take the coffee budgets. We just did it in our recent, our district, where we did that. And it's just, it's an hour coffee bunch, it will be built.
Mhm.
What's that, 10 of us? So that's 10 meetings right there, to, build
11 hours, right.
I'm just saying, what you're saying, we have to know the way to put that money in there in the budget, so that, see, anytime in the budget, that's when you always put fat in the budget. Miscellaneous, I don't know if anybody else, the budget, you put that in there, so that you have some kind of cushion. How, you might have cushion.
I don't think. So
Yeah, no,
typically, what happens is I'm in here, I get an email and they say, this is your budget. Make it work pretty much.
Well-
Because the county is in a deficit, a lot of the agencies are not, giving bills what it is. So that's just what it, I don't get to say, well, give me this amount of money. And I can argue it and go back, well, as I did last budget, session, but once I get the email, this is your budget right at the end.
So I think having input from the board, before that goes before the council, I think is one of the most important things. Because we're actually doing the work. And so I think being fiscally responsible is including the board in that conversation. Because you can't, I don't think that it's fair to say, here's your number, work with it. We actually know the work that is needed.
I mean, I do get it, like, if you have a deficit and you say, here's your number, that's understandable, but here's the problem. Then what happens when you have a surplus? Do you then go and say, well, you all operated off of this
Right.
amount last year, so we're not giving anything extra? Because again, there's no feedback mechanism to say, I mean, I would be appreciative if it was a feedback mechanism, if you say, we heard you,
Right.
we know you need that, but here's all we can give you. I just feel like us
100%.
not having that feedback at all, it just feels like,
More.
So
what are you basing it
What
off
you
of?
do is you comply, but you show them what it's gonna cost you
Yeah,
and what it's gonna cost the county. And you show them by doing this, this doesn't happen.
exactly.
So that when things change around, they know that you will be able to, I mean, you comply, but you just show them what the deficits are.
Yeah.
And what that means, whether it's staffing, whether it's goals, whether it's something you've got to prioritize.
Yeah.
So that you don't lose it forever.
Right.
Just to clarify, so in terms of the past budget process, or we've been around for a couple of years now, but so in the last couple of budget cycles, the board has not been formally approached in terms of like a question by the county of like, how does this look good for you? Do you weigh in? Like, we haven't been given the formal opportunity to weigh in that.
That should be an
process.
agenda item before
Yeah.
it goes before the council, so we can know what we're working.
And yes, that's what I was gonna say. I think, I mean, it also raises a question, not to create work, but it also raises a question if we should have, like, I don't know if it's already part of recommendations or like, should there be a budgetary section of our report too, of like our needs? I mean, we're reporting a lot of what, the LEAs need. And it sounds like we got some needs too now. So it feels like that might have to become part of our recommendations as well. And I know, you have budget hearings and stuff like, there's no reason for us not to be
And
involved.
also, like you're saying, it's just like. You have. You lobby the council. And when they cut the budget, in any municipality, in any city. They first tell you cut that much from the public safety budget. And our job is to make sure. Accountability for police. I'm just saying that, we could help when it comes to the council, who is the county exec, comes to the council to lobby some of the council people, say, this is what we need, this is what they gave us. That's. You just have to look at that.
Yeah, I think all of us are in agreement with that. And I think that, first things first, I think we need to, find out that we need to be included. I know that, we're all saying that we should know, but we should have input as well. I think that's the most important thing. I can say that we want control over that, but I think that it's important that the board understanding the work that's before us and have now been doing this for a couple of years, we know what we need when it comes to that. And not saying that we're trying to be reckless with the money. I think that that's being more responsible and understanding how we can structure our meetings to be more beneficial and get more work done with that. So I think that at the next meeting, if we can get that information and also the breakdown in field hours already and what we have left, and then also get a report back as to what was approved of what was sent to for approval, and then an explanation of why it was that way. I think that that's what we, should put on for our next agenda, just so that we're going in, because we're going into the new, next fiscal year, and I think that's the great way to start off. We can have an understanding. Everybody okay with that? Okay. Mr. Jenkins, I know you had your hand up about 35 minutes.
I'm good. I'm gonna leave it right there. Leave it right there.
Right. Okay, cool. So we'll do that, make sure that we get that on our next agenda. On the next agenda, we'll make sure we talk about the budget. And it may just have to be that meeting for that, maybe have a subcommittee report out and then just talk about that. Because again, I think that it's important moving into the summer months and when we want to have more outreach and things like that. So we need to discuss that. Okay. So then so that was on the old business meeting frequency. So we'll revisit that after July, once we get the budgetary things and things like that, we'll be able to draft what it is. I think somebody said before, having a calendar of the subcommittee meetings, knowing that, and then weigh that against the budget. So that we're aware of that. All right. Thank you for the conversation. Next, new business, AHB appointments, rules and procedures. I think we've been tasked to come up with rules and procedures for the HB. I know that we have 5 people so far, 9 that have confirmed yes, and 1 has been chosen. But they need more people. So I think that, like Mr. O'Neill suggested about the survey, I think we need to also start sending it out to people that we know. I know that Vice Chair and Mr. Jones had gone to an event or something. So if we can develop a QR code, that when we go out, you can just scan that QR code, and the application come up and start that process. And it's easy to do that. Anybody else have any ideas?
I wanted to just, the reason this also is on the agenda is because we have current sitting people that we named and appointed to the AHB that never did all the things that they needed to do to actually sit as AHB members. And so also a question has come up whether we need to remove them or they can just stay. So, so I wanted to get some more information on that, and I don't know if there have been any conversations regarding how we handle those individuals. Because I think some people have been sitting for more than a year, just never filled out the documents or turned in what they needed to turn in to be eligible to actually be sworn into the HB. So if those nominations are just sitting out there, should it be something where we as a board remove them from consideration for that? Or do we just let them sit there?
Did they do the training?
No, I don't know.
Training,
But regardless,
state training, but, the
Yeah.
AHC specialist said that there's other things they have, like rival,
Yeah.
like that's what they don't say.
Yeah, there's other requirements.
The people she identified that have done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's somewhere in the middle where we actually communicate with them again. And say, you have, X amount of things still outstanding. If these aren't completed by X amount of days, you will be removed. That just kind of makes it board.
Yeah, I agree with that because we do have citizens that want to be a part of this process and have the time to dedicate. So I think that they're holding the spot and somebody can complete all the things we're required. So I agree with you, Mr. Miller. So,
So can we get? Sorry.
no,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought it was following the appointments to kind of look into that, because we said, that needed to be decided, what are the terms? We had decided that before we kind of went down this road again, we needed to shore up some of the parameters that we didn't in the original round. So I don't know if that's more of a smaller group, so that you can come to this larger group and we make a decision on it. I think there's some nuances that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think we can draft a letter to send out to folks, to the individuals, and then come up with the framework for terms for individuals.
Mhm.
And then the second thing, Ebony, is when is the next AHP training they're doing? August 6th and 7th. Okay. So that means, yeah, we should be making a big push to get applicants now. So that in July, we're
Yeah.
doing interviews. And then we also have to take into consideration that interviews will also eat into our budget of hours. So,
Oh, right, okay, wow. Looking for credit.
Question. Like semi tangent, but you mentioned that there are these like other requirements and things that AHB appointees have to go through before they can sit on the board, one of them being a ride along. And some other stuff, so I'm kind of curious as to what those requirements would be. Because I kind of feel like if you're required to do a ride along, then you should be required to also have something that explains like what civilian being a civilian or a community representative in this oversight process means as well. If you're trying to, this is early on, I want to understand more about it, but if you're required to do a ride along, something like that, it sounds like you're trying to understand the law enforcement officer perspective, which is important, great, you should have that. Well, we want to talk about balance and impartiality, that you should also have the opportunity to understand what your position as a, because that, the position that we appoint is a non-law enforcement person. So you should also have some kind of something involved in that too, that also says, you know, you're in your capacity as a civilian oversight person, this is kind of how you should navigate, how you can respond, like some kind of training or support for that as well.
Now, could that be something that is included in the training already?
And that's what I'm saying, I don't know.
I think-
I think we should look at that.
And I think that, whatever it is, and I think the procedures, whatever it is, I think moving forward, since we've done this now, I think that we need to document, these are the things that we need as a part of your selection. And like Mr. Melton said, if they're not completed within a time frame, then we need to remove you from consideration.
Yeah, and I don't want it to be lost that, you know, I think to a certain extent, what you're doing is saying that this is a civilian that acts in some ways like a juror.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's having an explanation of their role, I think is probably sufficient, because again, as a juror, you show up and you kind of understand, I'm listening and providing perspective. I think what is missing is the law enforcement perspective from a civilian, because they've never sat in that seat. So that does kind of make sense to try to get them some exposure to that perspective. Because as a citizen, they live that every day as a normal person. So I think if they do have, you know, some clear guidelines on what their role would be, I don't know that like a training or like an extensive expertise about what their position is probably necessary. And I don't know if that's really what you're saying.
Yeah,
but-
well, it is what I'm saying, because the other, I think the idea between, like, the way it's set up is that you have the retired judge or whatever the person is, officer of equal rank, and then a civilian community member. So the law enforcement perspective is already represented in the officer of equal rank, right? And so if we're on site, then maybe it's the officer of equal rank should maybe get some kind of briefing on what civilian oversight means. But I feel like you can't oversaturate the law enforcement perspective in what's supposed to be an unbiased process. And if you're adding more, I need you to really understand this is what law enforcement officers go through. That's great, I understand that's important, but you are acting as a juror, so you are supposed to be mostly impartial. And if one side is getting several opportunities to explain, contextualize, and make you see it from their side, that feels like a sway towards bias. I know it's not the intent, but I would like to make sure that we aren't moving in that direction.
So, and for me, I think that part of the reason is that, I think that part of the thing is that, like Mr. Melton said, we understand what it is to be citizens. We understand what it is to be community members and, the responsibility that we have to the community. I think that if you're looking at it from a juror standpoint, sometimes that's why they have expert witnesses that come in for the defense or the prosecution. And so understanding that is just giving you a perspective. So you'll be able to understand, for an example, before I did ride-alongs and took, the Citizens Police Academy, never understood why police officers touch my car when they come up. But understanding that the law enforcement officers are doing that, so their DNA will be on your vehicle, gives me that perspective. Had I not had that class and that ride-along, I wouldn't have known that. But I know what it feels like to be pulled over by the police and talk to the people in my community and things like that. And so I don't think that, in my opinion, I think that what is need, what they have is what we need. Understanding, I think the passion, one, to be part of the HB process, demonstrates their passion. And I don't think that it's oversaturating, one particular part of it, meaning law enforcement. I think it's giving a full perspective of that.
I'm just saying, I don't think, that's what I'm saying, I don't know all the aspects of the requirements that go into it, so I would like to see what are the things they're required to do to go into it. This is my preliminary, I'm just saying, I heard something that caused me to pause. I would like to see what that looks like. That said, what I will just say again is that I think if you're gonna be explicit or intentional on one side, you gotta be explicit and intentional on the other side. If I'm gonna explicitly and intentionally try to teach you about the perspective of law enforcement, I can't say, oh, your unintentional, just happenstance experience as a civilian is sufficient to match what I'm also trying to give you through a formal process here.
No,
And that's all I'm saying.
completely agree. And I think that jumping ahead before we understand what's included in the training.
Yeah, and that's what, yep,
But we go on before anything.
absolutely.
The training that I have taken, it gives perspective from both parts. So, maybe we can speak to someone or get a copy of the training material
Yes.
or something like that. But
Just
I
wanna
think
understand
before we
what
start, if it were me, and you're telling me I need to know what it is to be a citizen from the perspective, I'm like, I don't really need that. Because I understand that, but I do want to understand all other aspects. One thing I do have knowledge of is how to be a citizen when it comes to law enforcement and how to engage with the citizens. That's all I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
And, you know, again, this is a hearing that's sort of an appeal, right?
Right.
Of something that's already been reviewed and judged based on this. And I think to a certain credit, we have the ability to appoint these people. So our interview process, you know, we've talked at length about what we want to look for. We do talk about objectivity and the ability to do that. There's really, to be very difficult to prove someone's objectivity, but I think we just giving them an opportunity to see how they can play a part in this process. And I think the ride along is one example, and I know you're saying you would like to see the full scope of what they require to do. But I do think that that is a reasonable activity to give some perspective that would allow what we want is a fair process. And we know people can be biased on a lack of exposure. And generally, as a law enforcement officer, not many people have done ride-alongs just because. So this is, to me, it just says that if we do review the list, we feel like, you know, it's good. I think there's anything, we could implement some more stuff in the interview process.
Right.
If we want to make sure that people are see through a certain lens of, you know, fairness.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the ride along perspective. I just want to see what the training is they have to go through to make sure that it's balanced out. That's all I'm saying.
You, Vice Chairman, you were talking.
Oh, no, that was it.
That was it. Okay.
Well, we'll work on, something to bring back to the.
Okay. And I think when we do, have community outreach, and again, for National Night Out and any coffee club, anything that we do, we have that QR code, links, and things like that. You can just scan it with your phone if they're interested. Okay. Next up on our agenda, training and education. Mrs. Rose, did you have anything that you wanted to say about that? No, ma'am. Okay, I know that we do have, a conference coming up. I don't know all who is going, so if I can get that information of who is going. I had some conversations with, a few people, in the county, and there were some concerns. So I think that we need to have some questions answered by the Department of Law, to make sure that, the board members are the ones who are supposed to be going and that we're not including anyone else in that budget. For that, so I just want to make sure that if I can get a list of everyone who's going, like, I thought that, I'm sorry.
There's two.
Oh. I didn't know if any law enforcement agencies under our budget. Okay,
That's grant.
okay, so this, okay,
That money already written. Grant.
oh, okay, okay. Okay. Alright. Okay. Right.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So each year, this is something that we participate in, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And board members, at least two go every year.
Yes.
Okay.
So what?
At least
Two.
two board members go every year, do you rotate? I mean, I'm
To
just
the
asking.
conferences. Okay.
Oh, the Maryland.
the municipal, no, Maples in August.
Right.
This is the municipal.
Yeah.
This is the 22nd to the 26th,
Uh,
24th.
22nd to 20. Yeah.
It's Sunday to Thursday.
No, it's a Wednesday.
Okay.
But I'm just assuming that it is something you've been doing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And that
ma'am.
a representative goes.
Yes. Well, yeah, multiple. Okay, more,
Okay.
more. But I think because of the budget, things like that, I don't want
Oh,
to turn the fact.
All right, okay.
But yeah,
I
I
see.
think,
Thank you.
Last year, it wasn't us paying for it, it's a grant that Crystal had gotten for all of us to go. So she got a budget from the state, I think.
those are some of the conversations that we need to, some of the things that we need to know as well. When it comes to the money that is being spent, because I think it's responsible for all of us, that if anybody asks, like, what do you guys, like, what's your budget and things like that? You can't answer those questions, like, we didn't have any input. Any input.
You didn't know that she had gotten a grant?
I'm not talking about the grant, I'm talking about the overall budget for the fiscal year.
Like the budget process we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so,
I have a question.
yes.
But we know we have staff that goes, like, these are some of my questions. Because having been here, I know when the process works. And so I'm thinking that the board would know and they would attend if they could, or at least stream it, right? And that there would be a report from the IG to the board when they go to talk to us about what occurred and what's important from the council with questions so that we know what's important and we know what we need to focus on,
Mhm.
or else we're working in a vacuum.
Yeah, and I think when Vice Chair and I went and spoke before, they had questions about the budget. And told us to get more involved in the budget when we had a, meeting.
But I mean, report back like this.
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah,
We do.
Oh,
We do
okay.
do that. Yeah.
Oh, you mean from the.
When the people return in, they.
From the conference?
And there's.
Single
written
citizen.
reports.
We're talking about two different,
Yeah.
talking about apples and oranges, right?
Okay,
now. I'm talking apples,
about.
Help me.
it's apples, oranges, pears, y'all all over.
Tangerine.
I mean,
So are you
So,
talking about the budget process or going to the conference and reporting back?
I'm not talking about the conference.
right,
Right.
I thought it was the
Still to
budget.
the
Yeah.
budget
Right.
because of some of the discussion that was going on.
Okay.
And I'm trying to make sure I understand. So
Yep.
because the chair talked about budget and the allocation and knowing what it is and who goes, so that it flipped us to the budget process.
Right.
Does
That's
that make sense?
No,
Go ahead.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, we went back. So that's going to be the word of the evening, budget. See that, so, budget. Okay. So that was, Ms. Vice Chair, did you have anything under that?
So was I an apple or a pear?
Tangerine.
That was why it was mixed.
It was a fruit salad. But I
That's what
understood.
it is,
Yeah,
right, I heard, but that, I was like,
You was like, wait a minute.
I was like, oh.
No, but I understood. So, that was it. I don't think I have any announcements, Mr. Vice Chair.
I just had one question, which is it my understanding that that last chiefs meeting was the final cycle of the current questions? Or do we have another cycle of that same question set?
Oh, you mean, change the questions?
Yeah, yeah, and I thought we did talk about potentially doing that based on information that we have had. You know, what committee would that go to, subcommittee? Would that go to community
I would love
outreach
to see
maybe?
it go to a subcommittee, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure which.
Community
I thought it
outreach
was the
maybe?
milk stuff.
Hmm?
I thought it was the milk stuff.
I got two of them.
Yeah,
But you did the questions.
We did
Yeah,
talk
that
about,
is the number.
we did talk about having questions that are changed per,
After everybody. went
yeah,
over.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like as we see who's coming.
Right, and that'll be important when we review data and things like that. Okay.
And so with a lot of talk about limited meetings and stuff like that, I would love for us to see if we can just kind of maybe see where that sits. That, because they then need to propose what the new question would be for approval at another
For the
meeting.
meeting, right.
And we got to make sure that's done for the next quarter.
So committee orders, or we can budget more meetings.
Also,
You got right.
no, that the surveys that we got back already, if we get what people are saying, then we could go back and change, you know what I mean? From the surveys, the 100 or something, we got, yeah, you know, what was the, not everything, but you know, the top issues that the community thinks that we could then those to the chiefs.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that, also, I think once we've met, the mandate for the chiefs meetings, I think that it would be great to come back and maybe think about any, policies or recommendations based off of that communication that we have with them. So I just think that once we have that and just go over the questions and the responses, I think it would be right, like you said, Mr. Jones, earlier, that we draft the questions based off of the next set of chiefs. So it won't be the same questions that come through all the time, based off of a lot of the data and the things that we may see. I know Mr. James has done that before. We look at some data points and then base the questions based off of those data points to those particular
So
LEAs.
why do we get repeat? Is it because it's an open meeting and they're all?
What you mean, the questions?
No, so we have different chiefs come back every
Oh, yeah.
time. So is it because it's more of an open, well, we're inviting a certain set, but it's still open?
So I think that what happened, I don't want to be jumped, but I think when we invite people, the chiefs, if they don't accept by a certain time, it moves to the next.
That's another.
So it sounds like the same one, don't accept me, it's the same.
Yeah, so we did, I will remind everyone, you weren't here for that yet. But I know Ms. Allen sent out a schedule for all
Right.
of them. So,
Right.
so I think we just gotta go back and reference that document to see. We should be able to cross-check that document to who actually came to the meetings, and figure out if we've covered everyone. But that was for all of 2025, I believe.
Yeah, they did that early. So that,
So on that, we still would have,
But it
Two
still doesn't
meetings.
explain why someone would come twice.
yeah, no, of course.
Three times.
They're just big fans of us.
yeah, that,
I don't know, I'm trying to figure out twice in 1 year or.
Yeah.
Okay, so, oh, well, I know sometimes like the, president, he comes,
Yeah, the president of it.
but who else came twice?
I'm almost certain of a Marlboro.
Not in the same.
Well,
year.
not.
The
not
one
this
that
last
was
year.
last
Yeah, last.
that's a
year.
calendar year. This year.
So they, you will see them here. So you might, they might have come like.
At the
they
end?
come here in the fourth quarter, and then you saw them
the
again. in
first quarter, right.
then that might have happened.
Okay.
Yeah, because the first quarter just
Yeah.
started in February, so we just had a
Right.
second
But,
quarterly meeting.
and we was asking the same question.
Well, that's what we talked about. That's why we said we're going to
Okay.
draft questions up, right? I like, whenever we look up in the air, that's meaning a good question is coming. I've noticed that. Okay, yeah, so we're going to, and, again, I think Mrs. Maxwell said that those questions, did we say from the community outreach subcommittee? Was that what we were talking about?
Well, someone said they should go over it.
Yeah, I think Mr. Melton said that, yeah, right. Yeah. So I heard it was the Mr. Melton committee. So I heard it was Mr. Okay, all right. Done. Okay, so I think we have a few things to do before the next meeting. Is one, we can start to look at the questions, and then come back, and maybe, we can have that discussion about that, and you can lead that discussion. Also, we can put on the agenda, I think the top of the agenda should be, always subcommittee, reports, but we need to make sure that we get some input on that budget, so we can think about the questions that we want to ask. And if we can get a copy of that, I think that'd be good, and then we can kind of move it from there.
So to clarify, are we creating a subcommittee for people to assist them, or you just do it?
I did
I
too.
thought that was a joke.
Okay, but I was gonna say, so there's going to community outreach, right?
I thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I was making sure, I was making sure.
We did everything, we just give it to Mr. Bell.
Okay.
That's what we do. Okay.
But what I heard is the conversation about the precedent for the questions and how we want to judge what happened next.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Apples and oranges again, it's nice. So, all right, well, that was it for me. Anyone else had anything? Mrs. Rose? Oh,
No, say, my question about like the AHP process, their onboarding. Just that, like what their process looks like.
so we'll have to reach out to the training
Yeah,
and then ask them if they can provide training material. I wrote that down, so, Mrs. Rose, did you have anything there? Oh, okay. Oh, yes, sir.
A couple of quick things as you were just kind of going through that. I think as we consider a different format for our meeting and the usage of our time, I think we have to talk about how we're doing things administratively. And you just mentioned something like the chief's meeting. And I look at those meeting minutes and it says that they commit to send back the follow-up on the disposition of a disciplinary outcome. So that's just in the meeting minutes, but it's nothing to take action to begin
To get that.
to get that done, so that we're sending a letter, we're getting that data back. And so I think we've got to step back and look at some of those things. If we're gonna move to once a month in our meeting and where the subcommittees, we've got to figure out how to use our time to get some of those things done. We've got a strategic plan that we kind of walked away from. We've got to go back and figure out, are we living up to that measure or is it just, collecting dust? So as we think about how we can use our time effectively, I get the dollars, but I also recognize that the deliverables are more valuable. And the work that we're here to do is more valuable. And the community that we're here to represent is more valuable. So we've got to figure out some ways to use our time to meet those deliverables and meet expectations as well. So I think that there are a lot of things in our minutes, in our meetings that we capture, but we don't take the step to execute on those
And
things.
follow up. All right. Anyone else?
So Chair, if you don't mind, if the AHP falls under appointments, if you do get that information, I would love to, if you could forward that to us,
Okay.
to me, so that we can actually meet on that and have something drafted in our time before we meet again and come back to the board with it.
That's not so bad, I have so far. Everything else, and then we'll try to get the training material to us. Yeah. That was it for me. Next item on our agenda is usually Mrs. Springs' favorite part. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but.
I move to adjourn. I'm here with you.
Thank you. All right, motion made to adjourn, made by Mrs. Springs. Is there a second?
Second.
I mean, you don't have to, we can stay here.
Okay, I have time.
Okay, yes, ma'am, sorry.
I can withdraw the motion.
Yes, no. Motion made by Mrs. Springs to adjourn, second by Mr. Jones. All in favor to adjourn the meeting, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned at 7:41 PM. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.